Do you think all languages ultimately came from a single source, or did they develop independently in different parts of the world?
I believe that all languages came from a single source. The idea that all languages can be traced back to a single ancestral language is the core concept of monogenesis. This theory proposes that all languages spoken today evolved from a single common source language. Much like a family tree with branches spreading out from a shared root, the evidence for monogenesis continues to grow, suggesting that the world's languages are not as disparate as they seem. They are, in fact, connected by a shared history and a common origin.
On the contrary, I believe that all languages came from multiple origins. The claim that all languages can be traced back from a single ancestral language relies on the assumption that linguistic reconstruction methods can definitely prove a single origin for all languages. However, there are evidences that make such claim impossible to verify. The history of language development is likely more nuanced and potentially polygenetic with multiple origins.
The monogenesis theory points to a single origin of all the world's languages, and it is the most accepted theory. It can be proven by these points. First, linguistic evidence. Shared features in languages across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, such as root words and grammatical structures, points towards a common ancestral language.
However, languages often borrow words, structures, and sounds from one another, which means these similarities could be the result of diffusion rather than a single ancestral language. On the other hand, we have the idea of linguistic diversity. There are many language families in the world, and they are so different that it seems unlikely they all came from one language.
However, the presence of shared structures and patterns across language families points to a common origin, even if they evolved and diversified over time. On the other hand, genetic evidence provides further support for the monogenesis theory of language origins. Studies have shown a correlation between shared genetic makeup and language relatedness, suggesting a possible genetic influence on language development.
Since shared genetic traits may reflect broader pattern of human migration and adaptation, but they do not necessarily indicate that language itself developed from a single source. Furthermore, the cognitive and biological basis of human language suggests that humans are born with the ability to learn language.
Humans are born with a predisposition for language. It suggests a common biological foundation, and it could have been inherited from a single ancestral language. The fact that languages shared structural similarities, the universality of language acquisition suggests a shared blueprint, making a single origin more plausible. Furthermore, cultural proof states that the prevalence of stories and myths about a single common language at the beginning of the world. The widely accepted Tower of Babel theory posits that all contemporary languages originated from a single Proto-Indo-European language that emerged in Central Europe around 7500s BC.
Merely, myths like the Tower of Babel are cultural stories and should not be considered empirical evidence. The existence of similar myths across cultures may reflect common human experiences and universal themes rather than a factual origin of a single language. In addition, the idea of geographic and cultural diversity, people lived in separate places for a very long time, and this led to different languages developing independently. For example, languages spoken by native people in Australia, Africa, and the Americas are very different, showing that they likely came from different origins.
While geographic separation can lead to linguistic divergence, it doesn't necessarily prove independent origins, considering the vast diversity within a single language family like Indo-European. Despite being geographically dispersed, these languages share core features suggesting a common ancestor. The universality of language provides further support for the monogenesis theory. Despite the vast diversity of languages spoken around the world, all languages share fundamental features like sound systems, words, and grammar, suggesting a common origin for these core elements of communication.
Since common features such as sound systems and grammar could be the result of universal cognitive processes or the nature of human communication, not a shared linguistic heritage. While the idea that limits the proto-languages, it is very hard to find a single original language that all languages came from. There is not enough evidence to prove a single proto-language, so it's more likely that languages develop independently in different places.
While reconstructing a single proto-language is challenging, it doesn't mean it's impossible. Linguists have successfully reconstructed Proto-Indo-European and other proto-languages, demonstrating the possibility of tracing language origins. The theoretical simplicity helps monogenesis, makes it a favored explanation for language origins among linguists. Instead of having to consider several independent origins of language, monogenesis would imply that all languages could trace their origins back to one source, the hypothetical proto-world language.
The origins of language remain unresolved. Both sides present valid points that may complement rather than contradict each other. Monogenesis suggests a single ancestral language, supported by shared linguistic traits and the universal human capacity for language, while polygenesis emphasizes the independent development of diverse languages shaped by geographic and cultural isolation. A plausible middle ground is that language may have originated in a small number of proto-languages within early human populations, later diversifying and converging through migration, interaction, and diffusion, reflecting both shared origins and independent evolution.